Hey, welcome to episode 103. I think it's 103 of Scar Bearers. Britain will fix that in the graphics if I'm wrong. I'm Chris DT Gordon. As always, it is great to have you here with me today. And as I mentioned before, Britton and Nate are here to help me with those technological issues, making me look better and sound better than I have any right to do so. So if you want them to share their technological gifts with you, you can reach out to them at Nate Barron. I know you're looking at me, you're thinking, man, it's spring. Things are going to be great this year. Not so much. Spring has sprung. It's been sprung for a month or so, but we still have those issues that might put us in an emotional winter. We might have those negative situations that have us thinking those negative thoughts that might lead us to that negative mindset that leads us to that negative action. Well, if you want some help with that, reach out to me at chrisdtgordon.com. We can talk about how I can share the attitude of gratitude or tag with you or your group. You can download a free tag one sheet. Maybe stop by the merch store and get a "What is your favorite dinosaur" t-shirt to cheer someone up. Or we could just start a conversation about how tag can help you and your group increase your gratitude, positivity, and resilience. So folks, today I'm joined by my new friend, Karin DelMaestro. Karin, how are you today?
I'm grateful to be here, Chris, and
awesome.
It's definitely my attitude.
Well, thank you. And I'm grateful to have you, especially since it's been a couple of tries before we actually could connect.
Yes, it has been. But you know what? Better late than never. And we've both been persistent. So I am super pumped to be here, super excited to chat with you and your wonderful audience today. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you again, Karin, for being here. And as you alluded to, like the sign behind you says, everything is figure outable, and we were figure outable. We figured it out.
100%. And I have to give kudos to Marie Forleo. It is her saying, it is her book, and it became a mantra of my life quite some time ago.
Well, it definitely works, and it's applicable to every situation.
100%. 100%. All we've got to do is remember it, right?
Exactly. and especially in those tough times.
Well, no, absolutely.
Yes. So Karin, you and I are similar in that we're not strangers to the surgical table. We've been under the knife a few times. However, our situations are vastly different. Could you please share with me what took you into that operating room?
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that mine was certainly a surprise. Let's start with that, right? It was actually going through a breast cancer journey that took me into the surgical room. Mm-hmm. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in July of 2018. And shortly thereafter, found out that I actually also carry the BRCA2 genetic mutation. And that means that my risk of getting breast cancer again would be 87%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So because of that, because of my not so young age, there were decisions that needed to be made, and that essentially led me down the path of a double mastectomy to remove both breasts, a complete hysterectomy. And then I did originally go the route of breast reconstruction. And it's a complex journey. There's a lot of to's and fro's in there, but ultimately I ended up with over 25 scars on my torso. So, the question becomes, how do you even feel comfortable in your body after that, right? Yes. And how do you accept yourself? How do you love yourself? And we'll use the sign, everything is figure outable. And what's interesting now is those surgeries, the double mastectomy, the hysterectomy, the reconstruction, and then removing the reconstruction, I'm actually now flat because there were even more complications. It actually led to 6 surgeries in 2 years, 7 surgeries, sorry, in 2 years. And so every 3 months I was heading in for another surgery and another surgery and another surgery. So yeah, definitely no stranger to them. And the recovery period that we need afterwards too. It's not just the surgeries, right?
Oh yes, yeah. I mean, your body is going through trauma whenever you go into that operating room, and so you definitely need to give yourself enough rest and enough nutrients and care. You know, it's not like, oh, okay, well, I had this done. Next day, I'm back to work. You know, especially on such a large area of your body.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And what's interesting, Chris, is I actually specialize in working with breast cancer survivors now after treatment is done. And there is that expectation. Well, I'm done. Now I get to just bounce back. And so many people just don't realize that the trauma continues, the recovery continues. And in the case of breast cancer, the next stage of recovery actually starts when active treatment is over, and that can be years. There's an equation for it. I won't share it on here, but feel free to reach out to me, anybody that is interested in it. I know that's not part of our discussion today. So,
well, I was going to ask you, you know, because not only do we talk about the physical scars on scar bearers, we also examine those emotional scars because, you know, those take a much longer time to heal. So I was going to ask you about what are some of the steps, or maybe at least what are some of those mental scars that people face after they go under the knife for this certain kind of surgery.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you mind if I back up for a second and just give everybody just an indication, because you may look at me today and say, wow, Karin's confident and, you know, she's got her stuff together, but that's not where I started.
No, please do. I think that would really help, you know, at least one person in the audience.
I think it's helpful to understand and picture this, if you will, you know, being a teenager in the 80s and having frizzy big hair, and I was tall and skinny, covered in acne, bad posture, and teased constantly for the way that I looked and my appearance. And so my self-confidence was at a very low number, if not even 0. Like, I had very little confidence in my skin. And it took decades and decades before I even realized that that was something that I could actually work on and improve.
You know, I know a lot of people can really resonate with that. And so it's you know, you're speaking, almost speaking my language to a point, because I know how it is when you see other people, you see the jocks and the cheerleaders, and then you don't look like either of them.
Yeah. And also there's that feeling of not belonging, right? Not fitting in, like, and feeling like you're a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. And that was my home life too. I was different than my entire family. We had different attitudes, different focuses and everything. But even speaking to being a jock, prior to becoming a health coach, I was a personal trainer. I was that athlete. I was in the gym, not growing up. I was a tomboy for sure, but never into makeup and fashion and things like that. But always interested in moving my body and being healthy. And, you know, I was a personal trainer, and I was on the outside, perhaps that person that somebody might look at and say, wow, Karin's got this great body. But inside, I was still not confident. I was still picking myself apart because of those old stories and beliefs about myself that was driven into me so many times.
We are haunted by our past, aren't we?
Very much so. But the good thing is that we can kind of exercise that
Yes.
and work on releasing it and getting rid of it and reframing those stories. And that's kind of what my breast cancer gave me an opportunity to do in that recovery time between every surgery, every 3 months. What I've learned in the multiple traumas that I've been through in my life, things like losing my mom, dad, and younger brother in a 5-year period, things like almost losing my husband, having Zika virus, so many different major things. And I won't go into them all, but I believe that we are often faced with an opportunity to kind of slow down. And that's what these surgeries did for me, again, at this point in my life, where I got to slow down and kind of check in with myself. Hey, Karin, how do you want to feel in your life? How do you want to feel in your body? What's important to you? And to me, that's where we get the opportunity to start tapping into who we are authentically on the inside, which is often what people don't see on the outside. And we're worried about being judged and what are people going to say and all of those things. But what I've learned is when we can eliminate that noise and get to sit with ourselves, that's where the confidence comes from, no matter how many scars we have.
That's beautiful, because especially in this day and age when we have so much noise from the internet and media and all these other voices telling us subconsciously and overtly how we should be.
Yeah.
The opportunity to take a step back and examine ourselves honestly is painful at times, when you have to face that you are avoiding some trauma or some situations that are keeping you from moving forward. But they're also, as you said, blessings and gifts, because they're allowing you room for growth.
Yeah. And I think the important thing for me was when I learned to examine those things without judgment. Because I think so often we judge how we think, or we're telling ourselves, don't be silly, or that's not real, you're making that up, it's in your head,
or comparing ourselves to other people. Hey, that person's not dealing with that.
Yeah. I mean, something really important, I think, to remember, and I think social media is, a blessing and a curse all at once. I think, as I grew up in the UK and I stay in touch with my friends over in the UK because of social media, I get to see what's going on in their life. So when you are distant from people, I think it can be a blessing. The curse is, of course, we all get caught in that comparison syndrome. And I think what's important to remember is that people typically on social media are showing their highlight reel, and you're thinking about your behind the scenes. And so we're not seeing their behind the scenes. So we're not comparing apples to apples. And I think that that's always something important to remember. And to go back to, the emotional scars about something like breast cancer, or any other trauma, or, any other scars. I think it's, for me, again, what's on the inside has always been more important to me than what's on the outside. Once I kind of wrap my head around getting rid of those insecurities and getting rid of what other people think, understanding that I'm stressing about it and nobody else cares. So why am I wasting my energy on trying to control something that we can't? Because we can't control what other people say, think, or do. They're going to think what they're going to think. They're going to say what they're going to say. They're going to do what they're going to do, regardless of what I do.
It's that whole spotlight effect. We think that everyone is watching us, that everyone is analyzing are and critiquing our very movement, every movement, where 99% of them don't even care. They have their own spotlights that they're dealing with. And so I know personally, I sometimes deal with it. And I have to remind myself, listen, the spotlight's not on you right now. You can go ahead and relax. And you'll know when the spotlight is on you, especially in my case, being a speaker and trying to do what I'm trying to do. But yes, that spotlight effect is a torture device.
That's a great way of describing it. Yeah, really, because it can be very cruel, right? In the messages that it can lead us to give ourselves. But that's a great way of thinking of it. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. And, I think for me, one of the kind of blinding moments for me that was such a big aha, I don't have breasts anymore. I'm actually concave where my breasts were. So I'm not even beautifully flat because that's not how my body was made. And I think there's also an element of faith that kind of comes into this for me, because I was made a certain way. Period. We all were made a certain way. We didn't have a say in how we were made. And so accepting that we were made the way that we were because we were made that way, simply, kind of helps to have that gratitude, to have that attitude that I'm grateful to just be here. I'm grateful to be able to share my story and hopefully inspire one person that's listening, But what happened to me was I went out in a t-shirt, and I actually had a doctor's appointment. It wasn't anything to do with my breast cancer. It was just a routine thing. And the doctor's assistant walked into the room, and I'm sitting there in just a regular t-shirt. And it's very clear that I don't have breasts. And she just looked at me and said, "Is it time for your mammogram?" And I started to laugh. It could very well have gone the other way, but I started to laugh.
Yes.
Because here I am potentially feeling quite self-confident about the fact that I'm just going out in a t-shirt and very clearly do not have breasts. Here's somebody that works in a doctor's office and looks at people for a living, didn't even notice. And it was just that wake up moment for myself where I said, Karen, I don't think you need to worry. Mm-hmm. Just go out, just be you. And if in the doctor's office, where they're trained to look at your body, they're not even noticing. And potentially she was having a bad day and just not on her game. But the message that I took from it was just a massive sigh of relief. It's just like, just go out and do you.
That I applaud you for not only having the fortitude to take that high road, but also to see the beauty in that realization. Part of me wishes you had said, "Yeah, can you help me find them?" But at the same time, that would have, probably made the assistant feel much worse. But I really applaud that mindset, because being able to see the silver lining in any cloud, no matter how dark, is the cornerstone of actually what I talk about, the attitude of gratitude. Because it's easy to be grateful when things are perfect, when you have a perfect body, when you have a perfect life. Hey, I'm thankful for everything. Yeah. But it's when the times are dark, you don't have a perfect body, you are facing so many physical and mental scars, that being able to see that realization and come to that conclusion is a gift.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I think we think in a very similar way, Chris, because people said to me as I was going through my journey, Karen, you're like the silver linings queen. How do you keep fighting? And I'm just like, because I'll tell you a quick little story that I think will resonate. The first time that I was just diagnosed, and I went to see my breast surgeon, and we were in the hospital, and we had a few minutes before our appointment, so we popped into the hospital gift shop, and I was drawn, just immediately my eye was drawn to the back of the shop, and there was this beautiful wooden hand carved sign that just said grateful with a big heart underneath it. And I mean, it's a shop full of things, beautiful things, nice blank and like things. So it was then time for our appointment, and we go upstairs, and just in the back of my head, I've just got the picture of this sign in my head. And I said to my husband after the appointment, I said, we need to pop into the store. There's something that I need to get. If that's okay with you. And of course he came in and he saw it, and he just hugged me, massive big hug, and he said, of course we can. And that hung above our fireplace in our living room, which I would go through, I don't know how many times a day, and every single time I actually would end up putting my hand on my heart. And just, it's gratitude from my body for keeping going through all of the trauma, but also a much bigger picture, right? It's grateful to be here and be able to take that breath every day. It's grateful to be able to impact other people's lives in a positive way. And I think for me, there's so much power in sharing our story, and the ugly bits, not just the good bits, but the ugly bits, because I think as we're going through anything difficult, so often we can feel alone. And just knowing that somebody else has been through something and has got through it, and that everything is figure outable, we're able to get through anything.
I totally agree. You look at the best movies, you look at the best books. They're not sunny walks in the sunny walks at noon. They are treacherous, torrents, blizzards, hardship. But it's the silver linings. It's the beautiful moments in those horrible situations that make the story worthwhile. And I totally agree. You're right. I resonate with that strongly, because being able to see the beauty in darkness, the beauty in ugly, is a gift, and it's something that cannot and should not be undervalued.
Not at all. And who's to define what ugly is anyway?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they say art is subjective, then beauty is subjective, as is ugly. It's all in how we see something, and nobody gets to tell us what that is. We get to decide that on our own.
Exactly. So, given your perspective of being able to see the silver lining, how do you help people find their own silver lining?
Well, for me, I'm a health coach, and everything for me comes back to self-care. Everything comes back to how do we nurture ourselves, mind, body, spirit, to get to this place where we can have that attitude in life, where we can be grateful for the little things and enjoy and celebrate the even littler things, because I think sometimes we just forget to celebrate the little things. So, what I do is, I have group coaching programs where I take people through my lighten the load system. I want to lighten the load that people are trying to carry. I want to lighten the load that makes us feel like we can't keep moving forward. I want to lighten the load where we feel like we're trying to do everything for everybody and we're not even on the list. There's a lot of nodding heads going on over there.
I don't want you to give away everything, but what is one way that we can lighten the load today?
Start by thinking, can I control this? Start by thinking, because what we so often do, the things that we're stressed about and worried about, we may be worrying about our kids and their relationships, or our health, or what might be happening in the future. We can't control any of those things. We can't control what other people say, think, or do, but how much time and energy, and I think of energy, especially after breast cancer, is a very precious commodity.
Mhm.
And after going through surgeries and recovery, our energy is so precious.
It is.
Well, what if it was focused on us versus other things out there that we can't control? So that's one way
Mhm.
that we lighten the load.
I think that alone is so powerful, because again, we look at how much social media influences our thoughts, and even in the news, the news has a saying, if it bleeds, it leads.
Mhm.
And usually if something is bleeding, that's not positive. It's very negative. And if you're inundated by negativity all the time, it weighs on you, even if if you have nothing directly tied to it, or if it doesn't affect you in any way. And so, yeah, being able to, I'm thinking of you are a car, and you have your trailer hitch, unlatching that trailer of negativity and that mindset of, I have to worry about this, off your car, lightens the load so much.
100%. And what you just spoke to, by the way, is another part of the lighten the load system, is setting boundaries, saying, no, this is draining me. No, I'm going to choose to protect my energy. So I'm going to disconnect from that, or I'm going to unfollow certain people, or maybe I'm not going to watch the news at night so that it keeps me up. Maybe I'll catch it in the morning, or just read the highlights. We get to create these boundaries wherever we want to, but we just don't always realize that we can, because we're stuck in the routine of what we've always done. And we get to change that at any point in time. All you have to do is decide. Yes,
and it's hard to break routines, but once you put yourself to it and you stick with it, man, it's a life changer, literally.
Yeah, and that's where obviously that's why people hire a coach, because it is hard to do. It's difficult to stay on track, and hiring somebody that's overcome a lot of traumas, there's a lot of different things that I can bring to the table to help people come. Life is always going to happen. We know that. It's a bumpy road. And so it's, how do we overcome those bumps? How do we keep going without letting go of the things that are serving us and letting our joy slip away?
Exactly. So where can people find you, Karin, so they can reach out and make that connection and lighten their own loads?
Oh, well, thank you, Chris. Certainly at my website, which is Karin with an I, DelMaestro.com, or for any breast cancer survivors out there, I have a Facebook group called Healthy Living After Breast Cancer. And that's a free community where I share all of my healthy tips. So, and also on Instagram at Karin, Karin, Del34.
Excellent. And we'll put all that information in the show notes for people to find. Now, Karin, you've heard me say that I love gratitude. I'm a gratitude guy. And you actually may have answered this question already, but I still like to ask it because I love learning the answers from all my guests. What is something that you are thankful for that previously, again, in any given time in your past, you would never have thought, wow, I really am happy this happened, or I have this in my life?
That's a great question. I know the answer immediately, because I didn't practice gratitude for my body before. I didn't practice gratitude for the vessel that carries us through every single day and keeps us going. And that is something that I practice constantly now. It's a routine in the shower, even as I'm sharing. Thank you, arms, for lifting what I've needed to lift. Thank you, legs, for walking. I literally go through the whole entire body. So for me, that is, and what a shift that ends up being in our life when we're able to do that and to give gratitude to something that I used to take for granted. I think most of us do. We just assume that the body's going to keep going, and why not help it along a little bit?
That's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. Now, my final question, what is your favorite dinosaur?
Oh, well, I have to say a T-Rex, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because after my double mastectomy, I felt like one. I couldn't move my arms, and so my arms were very and so I said, I feel like a T-Rex right now.
So if we were to go the Harry Potter route, that'd be your Patronus.
Yes, exactly.
I can see that. Given the fact that I have skin grafts myself, there was a time where I had very little arm movement, so I totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, it was a long time before I got that. I couldn't put my arms over my head. I couldn't wash my hair. Yeah, lots of things. So definitely I can relate to being as much as one can, being a T-Rex.
But without the balancing tail, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now you're getting down to details.
Yeah, I know. I'm a detail guy. Well, Karin, thank you so much for joining me. I'm happy that we're able to get this finally together. And I am looking forward to connecting others to you to help you spread your message, because it is such an important message for people, especially those dealing with breast cancer, to hear and a practice to live by.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's been such a pleasure, like you said, to finally connect, to share our stories. And thank you for doing what you do and spreading awareness of bearing our scars and being proud of them and being comfortable and confident in them.
Yes. Well, thank you very much, Karin. I greatly appreciate that. So folks, check down in the show notes below for Karin's information to reach out to her about her worthy message. And if you want to reach out to me about my message, you can go to chrisdtgordon.com, download a free tag one sheet, buy a what is your favorite dinosaur or tag t-shirt, and just let's connect. And so we can spread the attitude of gratitude with those high school students, those college students, those in the military, to increase their gratitude, positivity, and resilience. Please also subscribe, share, like this message, and help others by sharing the message so they can grow and be inspired themselves. Well, folks, please have a great day. Thank you for joining me today. And remember to pass on perfection and go for greatness.